home from work one night, and my oldest son had a Schwinn Stingray. And I just bought it for him, and I come home and he was taking the fenders off of it and stripping it down. I said, "What are you doing, son?" He said, "I want to go BMX racing." I said, "What's that?" So he started telling me about some of his friends were going to Scottsdale to the BMX track, and I said, "Okay, we'll try that." And he raced one night, and then my youngest son liked it, and I think he raced the next week. And they were like 11 and 9 years old, I believe, at the time. And I think we raced there 3 weeks maybe, and then the JCs announced they were closing the track because their annual rodeo, Parada del Sol, I believe it was called. And somewhere at that point, a member of the Scottsdale JCs talked to the Chandler JCs, of which I was a member of at the time, about moving the track to their property in Chandler. And all of us kind of pitched in and built a track. My brother and I actually did most of the dirt work. We were in the construction business at that time. Really mild track. I know the berms weren't more than a foot and a half high. Pretty much just a flat track with a couple of jumps in it. But we held that first race, and there was 400 and a few riders showed up. And we had no clue what we were doing, had no idea how to get them signed up. Some of the Scottsdale GCs were supposed to come over and help us get started. I don't recall that any of them ever showed up. But we got the race off sometime, probably 1 o'clock in the morning or something. And it just kept coming. So we decided to race, I believe at that time it was every Friday evening. That just kind of kept getting bigger and bigger. I was a member of the JCs, and I was just helping run the track, but I did take a liking to it. And I guess maybe that was because I was a parent, which that's how most of this gets started, I guess. Anyway, I missed a JC meeting, have no idea why, but I did. And they elected me chairman of this BMX project. My next door neighbor, who was the one who recruited me into the JCs, Reggie Light, and he come home and said, "Oh, Merl, you're the new chairman of the BMX project." I said, "What?" But I took it and ran with it. I enjoyed it. It kind of worked well with my construction business at the time. But pretty soon there were no JCs left. They were nowhere to be found. I had 3 JCs that were announcers, Herb Herbert, Mike Trainer, and Ben Rudy. 2 of those, Herb and Mike, were lawyers, and Ben was an insurance salesman. They kind of stayed with me for, I'm going to say, a couple of months. And one night, none of them showed up, and the race was ready to go, and no announcers. And man, I looked at that microphone, and I was a guy, I couldn't possibly sit in this meeting and tell you my name. I just couldn't handle it. It terrified the hell out of me. But anyway, I looked at that microphone, I looked at all them people out there, and I said, "Well, you're gonna have to do something." I picked it up, I got through it okay. I watched the riders. I didn't watch that crowd out there. I mean, a crowd. Back then, everybody sat around the track and under 95s and stuff like that, and parked their cars around the track, so the crowd was really visible. And it wasn't like Saturday with empty bleachers. Everything was full at that time.
Yeah.
And it was intimidating. But I got through that. I announced it. Some people told me how great it was. I know that was a lie. But I got good at it. And then I started announcing all over the country and nationals. And I mean, there were tracks paid my way just to come and do their double points race or something. I guess through the JCs and through BMX, I became a public speaker. And then after that, I mean, we traveled all over the place doing motivational seminars for track operators and all kinds of things, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was, I think it was in August, and we kind of hung on to that track. Well, then we closed down for Christmas that year, and a company by the name of Dossie Plumbing in Chandler loaned us a backhoe, and my brother and I started the new track, built the track, tore the old one down, And I believe that's the year the bonsai came into being. It was so famous out there.
And what year was those first races? 75? 76?
I think it was 75 when we started. I moved to Arizona in 74. I joined the JCs shortly after that. And I believe the first race was in 75. I'm not exactly sure about that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Then when we reopened, the track was much different. We started to gain a little notoriety with some of the people in California and other places, and pretty much BMX was California and Arizona at that time, and California more than Arizona. That's where all the experts lived. So we had a couple of decent-sized races, and I don't even remember what we called them, some cup or something. And Rich Long with GT Bicycles actually was the guy that really put us on the map in Chandler with the California people. He brought over a guy by the name of Bill Hemrick, who had a sanction called International BMX, IBMX. And he was going to show us how to do this. He ran quite an operation there. It was strong. He had a lot of riders, and I mean, it was a good operation, but he was just a flake. And he set up a point system, and I don't know that he ever kept the points. I kept a sort of a point system in tandem with him. But anyway, we were supposed to get a free trip to Colorado to a national he was promoting. And the top 50 points holders, a bus at that time would hold 50 people. The top 50 points holders were supposed to get on a bus and go to his national. We held a big going-away race for all the people, and then again, my God, it was 300 or 400 people out there that night. It was a big deal. Bus was supposed to be there at like 10 o'clock to pick up these 50 kids, and of course a lot of parents were going to follow behind the bus. It was a real fun thing at that time. And BMX was a family thing. Everybody was very close, and I mean, it was just like a big reunion, every BMX race was. Anyway, the bus didn't show up. So I tried calling Bill. No answer, of course. At about midnight, I knew this wasn't going to happen, and Lord, I was making alibis and trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do. So I called the bus company. I think it was Trailways at that time was going to do this, and I did get a hold of somebody. I says, I've got a bunch of kids out here supposed to go to Colorado, but I don't have a bus. Do you know anything about this? No. I said, well, what do I have to do to get a bus? So I got that bus chartered, and I personally paid for it. And we got the kids on the bus. We got to Colorado, and Bill was sitting up on top of a motorhome announcing a race that was going on of some sort. I said, well, Bill, I got my kids here. How do we get involved? He looked at me and his eyes got real big. I said, Bill, I'm going to go home and I'm going to start me a BMX sanction, and you're the first one I'm going to marry. And that's where ABA started. It took me, I think it took me about 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get the corporation together and get it all going. Started a point system, very cumbersome, little 3x5 cars, but it was pretty easy at first because it was only the Chandler track. It was still cumbersome, but we made it happen. And it just started building excitement like crazy. And then I believe the next track to come aboard was Casa Grande. There was, I don't remember the guy's name at all. He was a farmer. He put a track together, and I think one of his kids got involved. There was another track in Tucson. It was a downhill track in a city park. A gentleman by the name of Louis Stockmeyer ran that, who was just a real great guy. And that was, I believe, the number 2 track. Number 3 might have been Payson, I think. That's where Ronnie Ames's parents lived, and his grandmother had a trophy shop there, and she was pretty instrumental in that track, and Ronnie was quite a rider. They came to Chandler every night from Payson that we had a race. And the Stockmeyers came to Chandler every night from Tucson that we had a race. They were always there. Pretty much, they came from all over the states. Really, really come on strong at that point. It pretty much came together as a company that was going to go somewhere. I went to visit my parents and grandparents back in Illinois, and I believe that was at Christmas time. And on the way back, I had heard there was some guy operating a track in Amarillo, Texas. So I stopped there and kind of nosed around, and I ran into Gene, and he conned me into announcing his race. I had started announcing at that point then. And it was pretty much just a made-to-order relationship. We did the race and didn't say much. And then the next morning, Gene called. I stayed in the hotel that night in Amarillo. He called and said, "Let's go out and have breakfast." I said, "Okay, that's good, let's do that." So we sat there and bullshitted each other for probably an hour, and he said, "I'd like to be an ABA track, but I want part of this." So he became an ABA track. I ended up moving him here and various things, you know.
Yeah.
But when he came, Gene is a strong promoter. He was able to talk to the manufacturers and really move ABA. And then we started doing seminars around the country, and we'd drive or fly, whatever, to various parts of the country and meet with track operators that were in existence at that time. And there weren't all that many, but Florida was kind of a big hub. NBA was pretty strong in California. Esser or any of that group from NBL never really gave us a hard time at all. They kind of let us be.
Yeah.
Ernie Alexander, on the other hand, we scheduled a race, he would put one up against us.
Yeah.
It took us, I don't know, 6 or 8 races in California to get the people and the riders to believe that we were for real and that we were going to do what we said. It went pretty good. We scheduled our first national in Azusa, California. And God, what a disaster, but we had a pro purse there. That was the first $1,000 pro purse. Azusa was the first national.
We opened San Antonio in February of '79.
That's about right.
And we were track number 19
Yep, that's about
at
right.
that time. And we opened with 277 riders that night.
California
In the
came
rain.
on pretty strong early. Michigan was a very strong state. Denny Kelso was instrumental in Michigan. Talked to a lot of operators there, and we put that together pretty quick in Michigan. But Texas, of course, was very strong because of Gene. It was Gene and I, period. That's it. That was the employees, besides my wife and a couple of other people.
Yeah.
That was it. I mean, we did it all. We promoted the tracks. We put out the silly newspaper by sticking labels on by hand. We computed the points. We built the trophies. We did everything. It actually, in a form, come from Bill Hemrick. But we were playing with it at Chandler because we just couldn't get those numbers through with that total point system. It just wasn't possible. I mean, every race was just running until midnight or so. And that's probably not a good setup. Although everybody was so darn excited, they didn't seem to mind, but I felt guilty about it. The total point system, where every rider runs every moto, there's so much room for problems. I mean, it matters whether you come in 5th or 6th. With the transfer system, it only matters if you're the 1st or 2nd. So it solved a lot of problems. It speeded the race up tremendously. If we had a bad weather race, we would drop a moto, come to 2 motos, and I guess you guys are doing that now.
We did that
Didn't
too.
do it often because people didn't really care for it.
Yeah, right now.
But if we had a bad weather day or some problems, we would cut back a moto and just pick up the number of people we transferred at each time. I don't
That's what we
remember
did.
how many we did. Clay, you were probably involved in some of that, but one of my most horrible moves was starting Bicycles and Merit magazine. But but that kind of started out of defense. We were on tour that summer, and Gene wanted me to run tour for a week. He wanted to go back to Amarillo and build a track. He built a track that really upset Bob Osborne, and he really slammed it.
Yeah.
And he was taking us apart for about 6-8 months there, and that's when the magazine started in defense, and it was a horrible move. It was stupid. It cost a lot of money, but we did it. And we had to survive it somehow. But also the ridership was dropping off everywhere at that point, and later I had figured this out. That's when these baby boomers' kids was going off and doing other things. For example, cars and whatever. You know, I mean, they were leaving bicycles.
Yeah.
There was that age when there were just less kids to draw from. For the most part, what I have seen is those parents that were close to their kids BMXing are better families today. I believe that.
Yeah. I believe that too.
A lot of families fall apart today. They don't even know each other.
Yeah.
And if you're a BMX parent or a BMX kid, you darn sure know your family.
Yeah.
Every month we had to put out point standings.
Yeah.
And as the tracks grew and as the numbers grew, this got to be a big deal. I mean, we had these metal trays with 3x5 cards in them. We would calculate their points on that 3x5 card, and then total them at the end of each month. And then you had to sort the cards out to put them in order.
So every member had their own card.
Every member had their own
with
card.
a point written by hand.
Yes.
And
The moto sheets came in, and we'd assign the points on the moto sheet. Those points would be transferred to that 3x5 card. And then at the end of that line, that would be totaled. And then the most points to the front, and next, and so on. And then my wife and Jackie would type that list on a manual typewriter. I mean, electric typewriter, but a typewriter, not a computer. And we would send that to whoever was publishing our newspaper. I mean, it was really cumbersome, and it was difficult, but that's all there was. There were not computers at that time. And we were mailing newspapers. I think a company in Mesa was printing that for us, and they'd haul them out in a truck. And we had labels that were typed on the 33 up label sheets or something like that. They were typed. They would peel that sucker off and stick it on a newspaper and sort it to the post office requirements.
Oh, that's amazing.
There was a lot of all nights.
Yeah.
And then we got that first computer system, and that was a big deal because there were no programs for BMX of any kind. I mean, it was, we had to hire a guy to write it, and he did a pretty good job of it. But I woke him up middle of the night, lots of nights. John, what'd I do? That's what BMX is like. Most people involved in BMX really have a passion for it, and you're willing to do all night.
Yeah.
I mean, you want it to be good. You want it to succeed. There was a little building. Well, first we leased the building on Boston Street. I just don't remember the address. It was 2 or 3 doors behind the DC Steakhouse on Boston Street, downtown Chandler.
Yeah.
We started a trophy shop because there just wasn't a good supply of trophies. Ronnie Ames's grandmother was building trophies in Payson for us, but that didn't work out real well. Sometimes they got there in time, sometimes they didn't. But and it was a big expense at that time. I mean, there were no discount BMX trophies, so I got set up and we started a trophy shop in that building. But we're really struggling with this thing in our house, so then we moved the trophy shop down the other end of Boston Street, the other end of Arizona Avenue. And put the AV offices in there. We were there maybe a year or so, and then we moved out to McKinney Street out in the industrial park out there.
Yeah.
And moved everything out there. And actually, we were on McKinney Street probably 2 years, and we started outgrowing that, and then we moved down where you were then. I forgot what street that is.
It was Fry. It was Fry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Fry,
Yeah,
yeah.
because McKinney would go down and then Fry,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was the, sort of the two.
And that's where it was when I left.
In 1981, like according to that photo that we found, you know, of the whole
Yeah.
staff, you had, what did you count, 39?
39 employees in that picture, yeah.
Yeah, that's about right, yeah.
Yeah.
But that included Gold Line, the trophies, the uniform we were making, and the stickers, and we had a large screen printing business. We screen printed all of our own T-shirts, race shirts, and stuff like that. That's where Gene Warney and Gene, was his name Gene Shump?
Gene.
Yeah, they did all the artwork for us. They did the artwork for everything we put out, all the stickers and shirts and the tornado handkerchief, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a lot of T-shirts.
And we also had actually a place where we built, we made all the uniforms.
Oh, yeah.
You know, went through all that stuff.
Cut and sew.
Oh, yeah.
Cut and sew.
Yeah.
That's those three women on that one photograph.
And we sold a lot of uniforms, a lot of mail order stuff. And had a big trailer that we had Gold Line in and sold various things, T-shirts. Mostly it was stickers and T-shirts and jerseys and stuff like that. Back then, there was not the supply of jerseys for beginners, for example.
Right.
There just wasn't anything there. So we thought providing that would make those beginners feel like they fit better. I think today you can find a jersey anywhere to race BMX, but back then you could not. The bike shop didn't have it or anything. Where do you draw BMX employees from the neighborhood BMX, you know? BMX is one of those things that, well, you get your butt chewed often enough that it's not a job that we're looking for, you know? You have to get people within the sport.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Clayton and Jack Doherty and Donna Mason and Denny Kelso, Denny and his wife. I don't remember the other, but there were more.
Yeah.
That's where we had to get them. And that was a little expensive because in a lot of cases we moved them. We flew our little ABA plane out to Pennsylvania and picked Clayton up. It generally took about 12 to 14 people to run a national. We had to get them there somehow. It's not easy. You guys are all computerized on the registrations now, which, wow, that's a godsend.
Oh, yeah.
Back then it was all manual. We had that big trailer sitting out there at the Chandler track.
Yeah.
And we found at that time it was better to do it without the volunteers if we possibly could.
Yeah.
Because they're always parents.
Yeah.
I talk about parents a lot, but they could be a real pain in the butt in BMX, and some of them are a blessing, but
Yeah.
they're more difficult to deal with. They're going to favor their local riders, they're going to favor their kids or whatever. So
Yeah.
there's not that many of them that are totally impartial.
Yeah.
The sport itself was pretty limited at that time.
Yeah.
We did a few things prior to nationals. We did a thing at the Anaheim Convention Center
Yeah.
where the kid jumped all those cars and things.
Jumping Jim.
Who's that crazy guy that did the flip in midair with jumping? I forgot his name.
Jose Inez.
We were trying to create a show. We did some pro spectaculars, I think we called them, prior to some nationals. That was mostly in Tulsa, I believe, in Oklahoma City. That was the reason for the pro spectaculars, is to sell tickets.
Yeah.
Didn't really work. I don't know why, but you can't sell tickets to a BMX event, evidently.
Yeah.
Maybe someday it'll get to that point. But we gave away we gave away a new Trans Am to the #1 pros several years.
Yeah.
We did whatever we could to promote the thing, but as much as they can be a pain in the butt, the pros are such a big part of the sport. If you can draw the pros to a race, you will have the rank and file.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the secret to it. But I love the sport. I truly do. I have to remove myself from it, or I want to get involved in it again. It was just the highest point in my life, and I've done a lot of things. It's just not just BMX.
Well, Merle, I know in the grand scheme of things that your time in BMX was short, really.
It was.
But, I mean, you've left a tremendous legacy, and we'd like to thank you for everything you did.
Thank you guys for carrying the ball and making it happen. That's important to me, actually, it is. I mean, if it had failed after I left, that would be awful. I'll never forget a banquet in Amarillo. Of course, this is Roden again. It was at the Big Texan. And if you can eat a 72-ounce steak, the darn thing's free.
Yeah.
Well, everybody else had a meal, and here comes this darn 72-ounce steak that Roden set up, and I had to wrestle that thing in front of all those kids. I never needed it all. I couldn't do it. But anyway, that was the banquet Roden put together there. It was a wonderful time in my life. I've been there. I've done that. You guys can do that now.